Hey guys, welcome to this amazing workshop, which we are really excited to share with you today. This is a new type, a new level of outreach, fully automated by AI, giving the inputs of the user. Before I go inside the actual build and show you around, I'm wanting to show you the end result, right? So when basically outreaching towards users, we will get something like this. So let's preview this. So good day, I'm Chad from the local real estate company. I hope this message finds you well. I'm reaching out to you to see if you, Mr. Jackson, might be interested. So, okay, I might be, yes. So let's take a look. That's great to hear. May I ask what's prompting you to consider selling your property? Let's say I am moving between states. There we go. I understand relocating can be a big step. Do you have a price in mind for your property that you'd like to share? Yes, that will be 225,000. Okay, so let's say yes, it is comps. So comps is comparable market analysis, right? Okay, I am living there, so this is not an investment property. I'm living at the property itself. Okay, I am actually moving out in 9 months. There we go. Okay, how long have you owned the property? Let's say since 2011, which is quite a long time. There we go. Okay, so let's say, let's discuss this during our meeting. You can also specify each individual value, of course, but let's just go over these ones. And then for this one, I would be open to it. Yes. What happens now? The outreaching flow has been completed, and now we're going to go and create the actual appointment. So we're going to give the user a few days or dates to choose from, then show the available time slots. Let's say, let's do the 16th. There we go. And now the meeting is almost booked, right? So the appointment is almost booked. Only thing left is to go with the time zone or the time itself. So let's say 2 p.m. please. And from here, the appointment will be created. The actual notification will be sent to the live chat agent. And here you will see an example of it, right? So here you will have this specific part with all the lead captured. So how did we achieve this? First of all, we have a few flows. We have the outreach flow, which is inside of this folder. Then we have the appointment booking, which is default, and also some reminder flows for if the user does not respond anywhere in between. So if we're going to take a look at the chatbot outreach, you will see that this is the entire outreach that we just went through. So have you considered selling your property? If so, what kind of price do you have in mind? Are you living there? Is it an investment property? All of those questions basically are gathered inside of these few blocks. Basically 1, 2, 3 blocks, which basically just loops around. And once it's been completed, going to basically format the details or capture the details. And from there, we're going towards the appointment booking. Now, the bottom one is the reminder flow. So anytime a user gets stuck inside of a specific section, a reminder message is being sent. Maybe the user has something to attend to in between, right? And this is a perfect way. Inside the chat completion prompts, you will see that we are working with custom variables, and these are all bot fields. You can find these bot fields. So if we're just going to cancel out of this one, under the contents tab, bot fields, and you will see all kinds of bot fields. So for the outreach flow, we have these, right? So as you can see, we have the outreach guidelines responses, we have the instructions main, and we also have, excuse me, we also have the questions themselves. So these are all incorporated inside of that specific prompt. And we also, of course, have the AI persona. So if we're going to take a look here, the AI persona is you are Chad from the local real estate company. And that is exactly what we saw inside the introduction message as well. Then if we go back, you will see that under the generate responses, all of these bot fields are basically populated. So we have AI persona, then we have the instructions main, then we have the questions that need to be asked. And some values need to be hard-coded inside of the prompt because inside of bot fields we're not able to use any system fields, right? So we need to have some kind of user details to refer to, like the property address and how to address the user, the gender name. And then below that we will have the outreach guidelines. We will base our next response on the user's last text input, which is just as easy. I'm going to add a dot at the end. And the reason for that is in the beginning, the very first one, right? The user does not have a last text input because we are reaching out towards the user. So just having that dot inside will basically trigger the first question, the introduction message to be sent. So the next step would be to enable the remember history because we need to loop through the questions and we also need to save all the answers. Then we also will need to put in a model, and this model is also a bot field. If at any moment in time ChatGPT comes out with a new model, you just go towards the bot field, change it there, and it will populate directly through all of your chat completions directly. right? This is just a test value. Everything on the left-hand side are test values. We're not going to use functions for this one, because I found that putting the questions directly inside the system message to loop through actually works better than using functions. And this has been tested several times, different kinds of models, different kinds of situations, but this works best, at least for me, right? For the max tokens, I put them at 200, and you might need to increase that depending on the size of your questions that you want to ask the user, right? For the outreaching itself and the details you want to capture. 200 for these. Basically, for the demo that you just saw, 200 is more than enough. The temperature is my sweet spot of 0.4. I'm sending that to every single chat completion, and then the rest is pretty much default. I'm going to save the replies, which go under the choices.message.content. And if we're going to test a request, you will see where you can find that. So if we are going with the sample data, you will see choices here, then messages, and then we have the contents. So this is always the most recent reply from the chatbot. And a lot of users actually go down and go to basically store the messages and then the last reply of the user here, or the last reply of the assistant here, which is a problem because this will only keep getting longer and longer, right? We are going to add more values from users, from the assistant, then a user again, then the assistant again. So this basically is just static reply. That is also the reason why you'll need to go towards choices, messages, and map the content section instead. The next step is to go with a condition where we're going to check if all parameters have been collected. And inside the prompt, inside the bot field, you will also see that if all parameters have been collected, we are requesting a JSON output, so a JSON payload to be generated. And these are just dynamic values, nothing static, right? But also to have this specific section in place, so it contains complete. If not, it just goes towards this next question, so ask the next question towards the user, and then loop back, right? Now, if the user for any reason does not respond, the no input goes into effect. And for testing and demo purposes, we set that to 20 seconds. And so if you want to adjust this to a few hours, so for example, to give the user maybe 8-12 hours to respond, right, to this question before it expires, then you can set that on the no match and just replace that with the minutes or hours instead, before triggering the send reminder flow, which we'll get to shortly. So if the user gave all the informations, ChatGPT is generating a JSON output, and then we're going to properly format the payload. We're going to do so by passing the parameter name AI, the parameter value AI_response. That is the value that I used inside the chat completions to map the reply from ChatGPT. And this is pretty much the kind of JSON payload that you will get back, right? This is the JSON script that we're going to use. You could just use return and then parse the JSON payload, but sometimes ChatGPT is not giving the exact payload. Sometimes it's going to add certain variables at the beginning, like so, right? And then also at the end. And then the simple return JSON parse payload of this value basically fails. So we put this JavaScript in place, and you can just pause the video because this will handle these kinds of situations where ChatGPT is not exactly returning the JSON payload as requested. So that is something that we put in place just to prevent that. Once the payload has been properly formatted, we are going to send the user towards the appointment booking flow. Now, this is the standard appointment booking, which we will first go to, and later on in this workshop, I will show you how you can switch to high level or air chatty setup if you so wish to. If we go towards the default one, you will see that we come towards another chat completion, and if we take a look inside, you'll see that we have bot fields again, and also available free slots bot field. So this is just static data that we put inside of the bot field itself. We just captured that from a previous reply from a booking calendar, just to provide some sample data. But if we are going towards the contents, bot fields, and if we go towards the appointment information, you will see the available free slots here, right? And so this is just static data, as you can see, 14, 15, 16, and 17 of November, really old data, and then a few time slots here and there. So this is something that you can replace on the spot. You can just copy and paste your own values inside as long as it's a proper JSON format, and then it will populate inside of this specific section. And then we also, of course, have the appointment booking role and the appointment booking guidelines, which are all captured and are pretty similar towards the sample data that you see on the right-hand side. Then we're going with the lost text input again, and we can also put a dot here, but that's not really necessary because if we're going towards the appointment booking, then we always have a lost text input from the user anyway. Remember, history towards yes is again really important because that will allow us to loop through the data where the user first going to select a date and then an available time. The AI model, of course, is also a bot field, and from there I'm setting the tokens to 500, and the reason for that is depending on your available free time slots, you might need a lot of tokens, right? So these are just 3-4 days with a few time slots here and there, but you might have maybe 10 days, 15 days returning for your own payload. So having it at 500 tokens should be plenty enough to loop through this data. Again, the temperature is set to 0.4, and the rest is pretty much default. I'm going to save towards the AI response again, And once the AI response is set to complete or completed, then we're going towards the JavaScript, and if not, we're going to ask the next question. Here as well, the no input has been set to 20 seconds for testing and demo purposes, so you can change that towards your own preferred setting. If the no input is getting triggered, a new reminder message will also be set up here. Now, if the AI response is being completed, so the date and time have been captured, we're going to format that, of course, and we're going to go with a similar JSON payload. So, and as you can see, this one has a JSON payload, but also some additions where ChatGPT is known for to hand over inside of the API endpoints during a chat completion. So this script will handle that and then return the proper values. We are going to save the appointment details, as you can see here. So the result, and then we're going to save it. So after the formatting, then we're going with a chat completion to confirm the appointment. As you can see here, appointment details date. And then these are bot fields again that we insert, and you can change directly on a bot field level instead of needing to go inside the flows and adjust them yourselves every single time. The messages will just be a call to action, send the confirmation message. We are going to put the remember history to no, because we don't really need to save any additional replies after the appointment has been booked. Then we're going with a bot field for AI model again. Maximum tokens is 200, and then 0.4 for the temperature. Then everything is going to get saved inside the exact same custom field again. And from there, we're going to send the confirmation message. And here we have a nice JavaScript that basically formats all the user details from the outreach flow, as well as the appointment booking, into a nice looking notification. So if we're going to take a look here, you'll see that we have two parameter names. One is for user, and the parameter value will be outreach details user. We save that in the initial outreach JavaScript, right? And we save that and store that under the outreach details of user. And this could be a similar payload. Then we have the appointment details, which is also being captured inside of the specific appointment JSON details custom field. And now, as you can see here, we're going to create, this is a pretty advanced JavaScript, but this is going to create the specific notification towards an agent, a sales agent, for example, right? Just go through this JavaScript slowly by scrolling through it, and you can pause the video if you want to recreate this yourself. So if we're going to test this function and combining these values into a nice looking text notification, it will look something like this. So as you can see, in a notification itself, this will actually be displayed below each other as well, right? So this is a nice looking notification that we're going to save towards a notification custom field. And then this is just for example purposes to see how it looks like, but in a basically a live production broadcast, right? We're going directly with the send notification this way. That means that under the send notification, this notification custom field will be sent, as you can see here. Node will be this one, and then we enable the talk to human pause automation. If you so wish, this is optional, we just put it inside. And this is the entire outreach campaign that you just saw. Now, if you have GoHighLevel or AirChatty, right, you can also replace this appointment booking with the flow that we have here. So we also have this book appointment. This is basically a customized version to fit this specific use case, this outreaching campaign. And if we're going to take a look, it's really easy to incorporate. Basically, all you will need to do is to go towards the outreach, go towards open, and from here, we're going to replace this flow with the GoHighLevel book appointment. And just like that, you will now switch towards a GoHighLevel booking appointment. But how does it look like? If we're going to take a look, the first step will be to check the user details. So if we want to book an GoHighLevel or AirChatty appointment, we first need to see if this user already exists inside of the actual account in GoHighLevel or AirChatty, right? So this flow basically loops through all of those exact sections. So we're going to check if the CRM contact ID has any value. If no, we're going to ask for the email, because this outreaching campaign is basically mostly used on the SMS channel or on WhatsApp, for example, right? So that is why we don't need to ask for the phone number, because we already assume that you have it. Now you can still add that towards the chat completion. As you can see, we just have some system message here, like user guidelines. And if you want to adjust that, you can just go back towards contents, bot fields, AI appointment booking. From this folder, you can just search for the proper setup. So if we're going to take a look under the generate question to ask for email, right, is the AI HL capture user guidelines. So if we're going towards that bot field, AI capture user guidelines, here we are. So you can just add, we want to capture the user's email and phone. So if you still need to capture the phone in order to create the appointment, and then down below, you will also need that to insert inside of this JSON payload field. So what you will do then is just to add phone, and then you will go with insert phone. There we go. And then you will have phone included as the variable as well. Again, we assume that this kind of outreach is done on WhatsApp and or SMS, and you should already have the phone numbers of the user by importing the list of bot users into your chatbot. So we'll just leave it at this for now. Again, we're just going to check if the status has been set to completed, yes or no. If not, we're going to go and ask the next question. And once completed, we are going to basically format all the details again, right? As you can see here, going to return the JSON part data and then just capture the email instead. Then we're going to confirm that the data has been captured, a really simple bot field here as well. And you can take a look in the specific bot field inside the template, what the actual value is. Basically a really simple one, send a thank you message and confirm that we have noted it down. Then under the call to action, we have the send thank you message, remember history set to yes. And then we have the AI model enabled. Again, maximum tokens is just 100 because it's just a confirmation message you don't need anymore. And then we have the temperature set to 0.4. And of course, the reply has been saved towards the AI response. Then we're going to create the actual contact inside of HighLevel or AirChatty. And that would look something like this. So we have the first name, the last name, or just the first name and last name. You can also go with the username if that is the only one value that you have, right? To populate the name at least. And then we have the email, phone number, and that is pretty much it. You will map the response that you will get back by the $.contact.id, and you can save that towards the system field we have in UChat called CRM contact ID. So the user will then be created and we can go back towards the rest of the appointment booking. So if we're going to take a look there, if the user time zone has any value, because the user already booked an appointment previously, for example, then we can just go towards fetching the available free slots directly. If not, if this is the first time the user has been created and does not have a user time zone enabled yet, we are going to use the free mini app that comes along with this template. You can also install it yourself if you are recreating this template, right? And it's called Call My Time Zone, version 1.6 as of this moment, to get time zones from the phone number. This is really, really useful because this allows the user to select their time zone based on the phone number. And this allows you to grab the time zone from the phone numbers, put them inside the JSON field, as you can see, time zone _ user, then go towards the chat completion. Inside the bot field, we have the capture role and the guidelines, and then also the time zone of the user. Basically, this is the exact example that will be inside the bot fields as well, right? So ask the user to select their time zone from the following given options. So that will be the capture role bot field. Then the time zone display will be this basically be this bot field or this user field more. And then at the end we have the capture guidelines, which we will see here. Reply in first person, give the options in list format, and only output the parameter time zone for each. Do not start your reply with sure or any other confirmation, because that is what ChatGPT is also known for. Then we have a call to action under the messages. Ask the user to choose a time zone from the options available only. Remember history set to yes. Then we have the model AI model, which is the bot field again. We have the max token set to 250. Now again, if you have a lot of data, I think Australia is one with a lot of time zones, the United States of America as well. You might want to increase that if you run into any errors like exceeding the 20,000 character limit or something like that. But I don't think that will happen anytime soon. Then we have the temperature set to 0.4, rest is set to default, and then we're going to map the user's reply again. From the reply given, as you can see here, this is just a text question note. We're going to go towards the match time zones. And we're doing that with a chat completion because here the user might give their answer inside of a sentence, right? So we are using another chat completion to determine and match the specific data with the available time zones that we have. So for the bot field AI HL time zone match role, we have the extract the user from his input and match it with one of the following given options. As you can see here, this is just that user time zone again. And then at the end, this one will be the guidelines again. So here we only need to map the time zone parameter, right? So this one. Only output the following JSON payload. So we have time zone, insert time zone, and then status completed again. Here we have the last text input. Remember history set to yes. AI model is the bot field again. And then we have the max token set to 100. Depending on the number of time zones inside of your JSON field, you might need to increase this. For us during the demo and testing, this was more than enough. Temperature set to 0.4, and then we're going to map the response again. And once the response has been given, then we're going to map it with the JavaScript function. And as you can see, we're going to map this tester function, and then we're going to map the specific time zone under the result.timezone, and then we're going to map it towards the user's time zone custom field. Again, you can just pause the video if you want to manually do this and not purchase the premium template. That's completely fine. Just pause the video and type everything over, and then you should be good to go with this specific JavaScript as well. So again, we just have the parameter name AI, parameter value will be the one from the chat completion, and this is just a test value to see if the JavaScript is working, yes or no. Once you map that, it's time to fetch the available free time slots from basically the high-level calendar, right? Or the AirChatty calendar. If we're going to take a look there, it could look something similar like this. The action will be calendar get free slots. It is important to have your calendar ID present and also your AirChatty user ID. So we have a separate video on that, on how you can find that. But in short, if we're going to go with a quick test, you can just go with an action, go with integrations, go with the CRM feed too. And then, for example, we could also say get users info. And if we're going to say test request, then you can find your available users. So if you have multiple staff members, you will have multiple options. For me, it's only myself in this demo environment. You can just map this towards the user ID bot field, right? And then the same you can do with calendars. So we can go with calendars, say get calendars, say test request. Then you have several calendars, as you can see here. We have a business meeting, calendar type is event. But if we scroll down, we should also have a different one. So we have this Mark's calendar here. So I just mapped this location ID and then use that inside the bot field itself. So that's an easy way where you can find the user ID and the calendar ID by just using this single action block to just test the request, grab the values and add them towards your bot fields. Let's delete this one because we don't really need it. Then once that happened, right, get free time slots. And if we're taking a look all the way at the bottom, we're just going to map this with the JSON path and then calendar free date times. Going to take a look and you'll see you will get a similar result. Just going to map the top curly bracket as a $sign and then map everything under the calendar free date time JSON field. Do note that this can be dynamic, the end date, right? So this is a system field start date today, and this can be dynamic. So if I say I want only 7 days worth of time slots, you can just do it like this, or you can provide it in a similar format like this. So that's totally up to you. If you always want to grab the next 7 days worth of free time slots, then you can do it like this. And if you want to do it with 30 days, for example, you can do it like this, right? So that is a dynamic way of fetching always relevant time slots instead of constantly needing to put a static end date there. So let's just put it like 15 days or something similar. And if we say test request now, you'll see that you will just going to get a few calendar options for the next year. Once mapped, we are going to go with another chat completion, of course, because we're going to format this in a conversational way. And as you can see, the AI_HL appointment booking rule bot field will contain something like this. So the user wants to book an appointment. These are the free slots. This is the calendar free date time user field. And this contains this JSON payload, of course. And then once this is done, we get the booking of guidelines, right? So we have, if you want to add emojis, you can do so. This has been removed from the bot field as well. So it's only containing something like this: replying first person, give options in list format, ignore the time zone input from user as slots are already converted as such, just ask the next question, and then first give dates only when date is selected only, then give the matching slots. Right? So this is something that is then being populated. Messages, user set, lost text input, and then remember history set to yes, of course. The bot field for AI model, we're going to go with the max tokens of 500, depending on the basically the time slots that you are returning. And the rest is pretty much default, temperature to 0.4 of course, and that is pretty much it. We are going to check if the AI response contains completed. If yes, then we're going to go towards formatting all the data that we get and create the appointments, and if not, we're going to loop back towards the chat completion again to ask the next question, and so on and so on. So in the next part, we're going with another JavaScript to fetch the available date time, and to test this, you will get a similar function back, right? A similar result. We're going to map this one because it contains the date and time, and we're going to save that towards the date time, a custom field called AirChatty_appointment_time. But you can rename this to anything that you like to. From this, we're going with creating the actual appointment. And again, you will need to have the contact ID this time because as you remember, in the very first step of booking the appointment, we are going to check the user details, if it's having a CRM contact ID already, or if we need to capture the details, create a contact, and we'll get this ID back. Then we have the calendar ID, the start time, which the user selected, right, in this kind of format, and then the end time is not really needed. You can give it a title, any title that you like to. You can also store this inside of a bot field if you like to. So for the appointment status, it's important to have the status set to confirmed with a lowercase c. If you do not do this, there will be an issue where the appointment itself will not show up on the calendar, and you need to approve that under the appointment settings. And that would look something like this. So if we're going towards calendars and go towards appointments, right, then you will get the appointment shown up here, and then you need to approve it before it's going to get added towards the calendar. If your appointment status is set to confirmed, it will show up on the calendar on the specific day that you chose during the appointment creation. Of course, we also need the assigned user ID again, the appointment address. That is something that you can clarify. If you have a static Zoom link or a Google Meet link, you can insert that here, also per bulk field, of course. And these are default. So ignore date range by default and to notify false by default. So the automations in HighLevel will not run. If you want to set this to true, then any automation that you set up inside of HighLevel under the workflow settings, then those automations will trigger. So that's totally up to you. And just know that if it's set to false, those workflow automations will not run. We're going to map a few things like the $.status to the appointment status, then the $.id, which will be the appointment ID that's being created, and the $sign to basically fetch the entire payload. On the next step, we're going to get the actual appointment by the just mapped appointment ID, right? And we're just going to map all the appointment details. Then under the OpenAI chat completion again, we're just going to go with something similar like this. So the user just booked an appointment for, and this is the time that the user booked, and we saved inside the JavaScript function. And then we're going with the confirmation guidelines. And again, you can just pause the video and take a look here at the guidelines shown up here, or create your own guidelines, right? If you don't need the fitting emojis, which is not really recommended on the SMS channel because it will eat extra characters, then you can just remove them from your bot field value and then it will not populate. Then we have the messages, which will be the call to action for ChatGPT to generate that specific confirmation. So send confirmation message and mention that they can add it to their calendar using the calendar invite below. Do not give a link, just send the message only, because the link will be generated by our calendar invite generator. Remember, history is set to yes, just in case. And we're also going to map the model, and also the tokens will be set to 250. That would be plenty enough. And then the temperature is set to 0.4, rest is default as always. And then we're going to map the AI response again. Now inside the next step, we have a calendar file generator. And inside, this is a native function of UChat itself, which you can find under the action block and then go with add item, advanced items or advanced actions, and then calendar file generator. Under this section, we can basically insert the title of the appointment that we basically saved from GoHighLevel, along with the start time and the end time, location, if you have saved this inside of a bot field, like a Zoom link or a Google Meet, right? That's something that you can add as well. If you want to give extra descriptions, please do so, and or a specific URL, and then save a link to the custom field, and that is add to calendar. Now on the next step, we're just going to give the chat completion that we just generated, and then the add to calendar file. And we are going to do so by selecting the upload file, right? So we're going with add items, we're going with rich media, and we're going with file. And that will basically populate the add to calendar under the from URL. So that is a really important step because this generated file will be saved under the custom field, which is a URL. Once done, basically the conversation for the user ended, right? And just like with the regular appointment details, we can, this is just a notification example. You can skip that and go directly towards send the notification to the live chat agent because the JavaScript itself is pretty much the exact same. Going to generate that notification, as you can see here. Going to generate that notification for the user that a new lead has entered the funnel and the appointment has been scheduled as well. So this is the complete outreaching campaign for real estate agents. So if we go back, you'll see that you have 1, 2, 3, 4 different kinds of folders, just 1, 2, 3, 4, 6 flows, where a few flows are optional, of course. The main flows are basically the appointment booking, the outreach, and the 2 reminder messages follow-ups, just in case the user decides to attend something else in between, right? So just 4 flows to have an entire outreaching campaign directly generated by AI, powered by AI, also followed up by AI. And if we're going to take a look at the follow-up messages, that's the only thing that we did not cover. And it's pretty much looking the exact same as all the others. Going to generate a follow-up message, if we take a look here, and then we have something like this, right? So this is another bot field again, and this could be an example of the value. And that will generate the AI response. That will go towards a condition check to check if the channel is web. If yes, and you set it to several hours, you might want to send an email instead, right? Because if a user leaves the web, then that means that the user does not receive any follow-up messages until they arrive towards that web chat again. So if you're going to send an email towards that user with a button back towards the chat, then the user can continue the chat like normal. And this could be just for testing purposes. Now, this condition block is optional. As mentioned, most people will reach out through WhatsApp, WhatsApp Cloud, or SMS, right? But since this has been created inside of Omni-Channel, we put this condition block in place. Also check if the user is within the 24-hour window. If not, we're going to send an email. For WhatsApp, you can consider generating a message template to continue with a button. Once the button is pressed, they go towards this specific section. Otherwise, a reminder message is being sent. And as you can see, this question note expires in 8 hours. Under the no input section, you can change this really easily to your own preferred number of hours, minutes, or seconds. And then with the chat completion, we're going to determine if the user wants to continue, yes or no. If yes, we're going to go back towards that specific flow, either outreach or the appointment booking. And then from there, the user will basically go and finish the outreaching campaign that you sent them to. So under the bot field section, you will see that we have everything separated in folders for you to easily customize. And we think this is a really good option for you to start these outreach campaigns if you are a real estate agent or have an agency, or maybe have clients who are real estate agencies. If you have any questions, do let us know. Down in the video description, we will have a link to purchase the premium template, either just with the default booking or with the enabled high-level booking. And if you have any questions, do let us know and we'll try to respond as soon as possible. For now, have a great day, take care, and talk soon.